Hi, my name's Penny, and as usual I'm here to talk about some bookish things. Specifically, today we're going to be building my TBR for March. I do have a little pile here of library books, but we'll talk about those a little bit later. I do also have quite a few audiobooks. Again, we'll talk about those later. Firstly, we're going to use my TBR Machine website to pick out 3 books from my physical TBR shelves, which I am trying to get down to 0. I've been buying a few books lately, which isn't helping, but we're still doing okay. So I'm going to pick 3 books using my TBR Machine website. This is a website I've made, which you can check the link out down below, but it spits out random reading prompts. So let's see what the first challenge is. Read a book written by a female author. And this is great because actually the one book that I put just next to me here because I really want to include it in my March TBR, and that is The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. So this is the sequel to the 5th season, and I've just managed to get my hands on it, and I'm super excited to find out what happens next in the series. It's all set in like this apocalyptic world where the world keeps ending, and there's also all these people with like these earth magical powers. There's earthquakes all the time and they can kind of control the earthquakes, but at the same time the people with these earth powers are really feared and treated really badly. But so much happened in the first book that I'm super excited to continue this series. So like, I'm not even going to look at my shelves. We're putting this on the TBR. Okay, so let us pick another prompt. Read a book with LGBTQIA plus representation. I know this is hard because a lot of the books that are left on my physical TBR shelves are older and don't have great representation, or it's like quite like subtle representation, because even though the authors at the time, obviously a lot of them were queer or LGBTQIA plus, but they had to keep it on the down low because it was illegal in a lot of countries. I mean, I could have included this because this definitely would have it. Anyway, I'm going to go and look at my shelves and we'll see what we can find. Okay, I've picked some maybes off my shelf and I'll do some Googling and we'll see. Because the other problem with this prompt I always hit is it's not always publicized what's going on with the relationships. And I don't read a lot of books that are focused around the relationships, so it doesn't really help, does it? Okay, so I did actually manage to find a few after doing some research, but the one that I've decided to go with is The Calculating Stars by Mary Robinette Kowal. So she talks in this interview that I found about how she wanted to have people with different sexualities, genders and orientations represented in this world without having their sexual orientation be a plot point. So this one I've been quite excited to read as well, and I actually got it at the same time as I got 5th season, which is not this one, but anyway, I'm going to read that, so that will count for that prompt. And this one is about lady astronauts. That's really all I know. I could elaborate on the plot, but I'll probably be wrong. Lady astronauts. Let's pick another prompt. Read a book with a protagonist who is a person of color. Okay, I'm not going to walk back to my bookshelves because when I got those ones from the last prompt, I was lazy and I just put them here, and I know that this one is mostly black characters, I believe. So I'm lazy, I'm not going to walk back to the bookshelf, I'm just going to pick this one because I know that it's one I want to read. Although I don't really know what it's about. Something about spider gods and these Anansi boys who get themselves into trouble. I mean, if I'm honest, I haven't enjoyed a lot of Neil Gaiman's stuff. This is the only one I have left on the shelf that I'm going to give a go. I do also want to read the Sandman comics because I recently heard that Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez, is that his name? They're going to do a Lock and Key and Sandman crossover, so I'm excited about that, but I'm not talking about that right now. I'm talking about Neil Gaiman and Anansi Boys, so I'll add that to the TBR. So these will be the 3 books off my physical TBR shelves. And I'm actually excited to read all of these. I did unhaul a large portion of those shelves recently though, so it should be mostly books that I'm excited to read. There are just a few hanging around though that are like, I'm not sure about. Anyway, that's exciting. Let me also tell you briefly about the library books that I've got to read this month. So firstly, I have Edge Dancer by Brandon Sanderson. This is like kind of a shorter novella, although it's still a pretty decent length really. I guess it's a short book, but it's about 250 pages, and it goes in between the events of Words of Radiance and Oathbringer, which is the second and third books in the Stormlight Archives. I recently-ish, end of last year, finished Words of Radiance, and I want to get to Oathbringer soon, so I thought I would pick this up from the library. I don't actually know what it's about. An Edge Dancer, which is a particular kind of magic in the Stormlight Archive world. As well as that, I also have Chosen by Kirsten White. This is the second book in the Slayer series, which is set in the Buffy the Vampire Slayer world, but it's particularly about this girl who was training to be a Watcher and then completely unplanned turned out to be a Slayer. So I, if I'm completely honest, don't remember the first book very well, but hopefully once I get back into this I will remember. It's pretty short again. A lot of these are really short, which is really great for me because I'm going to have a busy March. I thought the first book in the series was a lot of fun, so I'm excited to read the second book. I also have Come Tumbling Down by Shauna Maguire, which I think is the fifth book in the Wayward Children series. Now, the way these... No, it must be... Hang on. It must be the fifth. So the way this series works is that every second book is a story about these children going through a portal into this magical world. And then every odd book, so the first, the third, and the fifth, is about these children having come back to the real world, and they're all staying in this kind of boarding school for children who've had these experiences and really missed the magical lands that they journeyed to. Unfortunately, my experience with this series has been that I really love the books where they go and find their magical world that really suits their personality, and I don't so much enjoy these questy journey school books. But this one does follow Jack and Jill, and it goes back to the Moors, which is one of my favorite portal worlds from the series. So I'm not sure whether I'll really like this, but I definitely want to continue the series. So I'm glad that I could get it from the library. Then as well, I just talked about this in another video, but I have the Babysitters Club Little Sister graphic novel series, the first one in this new series, and it looks super, super cute. So it's called Karen's Witch. I read the original story of this probably when I was about 7, which was a long time ago, but I'm excited to reread it in graphic novel form. Should be really quick. And then the last book I have from the library is Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse. So this is an apocalyptic urban fantasy. I believe that the magic has something to do with Native Americans. I believe that the author is a Native American. I could have that completely wrong. Anyway, I've heard quite a few people talk about this and say they really liked it. Rachel Marie from Rachel Marie's Book Journey was talking about reading it, and so I got it from the library. I shouldn't really be starting any new series at the moment, but I guess I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, also I do have quite a few audiobooks to read. So I have Brisinga by Christopher Paolini, which I think is the 4th book in the Inheritance Cycle, so the series that follows on from Eragon. If I'm completely honest, I haven't been enjoying the series, but I'm just reading it for completionist's sake. You got this boy who finds a dragon egg and becomes a dragon, and then becomes a dragon rider, and then gets all involved in this war between the elves and the dwarves and this evil king. It's very classical fantasy, you know, that Tolkien-esque type fantasy. Maybe I would have liked it if I'd read it at the time, but never mind. I'm going to finish the series. I think it might be the last one in the series. I'm not sure if that's true. Editing me. Do some fact checking. Then also I have The Guinevere Deception by Kirsten White. So this is like a Arthur and Camelot retelling, except the main character is going to be Guinevere, and she's some kind of like changeling. It sounds like a cool take on it, so I'm going to listen to that. I also have The One by John Mars. So this is a book that I think I saw Tia and All the Books talk about, as well as Books and Lala, and it's this thing where you can do this test and you can find your soulmate through the like a genetic test. It's a little bit like Gattaca. And also, I remember I used to always, when I was a teen, have a fantasy about like aliens coming, and then they would force you to be together with your soulmate. And of course, in my fantasies, I'd always be matched up with my crush. This, not aliens, just science, but it's exactly like the fantasy I used to always have. So I'm interested to read kind of this exploration of the impacts of that. I also have the audiobook for Lair of Dreams by Libba Bray. If you've been watching my recent videos, you'll know that I didn't actually particularly enjoy my read of The Diviners. However, I am going to continue the series in audiobook form. I'm hoping that the first one was just really suffering from having to do a lot of setup. I'm not confident that that hope is going to play out, but I'm going to listen to the second audiobook and we'll see how we go with that series. And then I also have Warcross by Marie Lu. So this is a book that a lot of people have compared to Ready Player One. There's some kind of virtual world, and then this one girl is a hacker who gets asked to help try and find a more dangerous criminal who's been hacking the system. Warcross is one that a lot of people talk about being really great, so I'm really hoping that I'm going to enjoy it too. I did like Ready Player One, which everyone compares it to, so that's a good sign. Then I have a few books on hold that should be coming through soon. Firstly, Elantris. Now, I think I had this on my last month's TBR, but I decided because it's such a long audiobook to delay it till March. Because the Cosmere Along hadn't really gotten going and I didn't want to read it too early. So once this whole comes through and I've read all those other ones I just talked about, I guess I will re-listen to Elantris. I'm not even going to try and explain Elantris, but it's Brandon Sanderson, cool magic, crazy, kind of like a fantasy zombie story. I've read it before. I know I love it. I also randomly, while I was poking around on Libby, saw the Hunger Games audiobook come out, and I thought maybe I should reread that series before the new book comes out, just to like refresh my memory. I've seen a few people rereading it recently and saying that it hasn't lived up to their memories of their first reading experience, so that will be an interesting reread. I also have a non-fiction book here called Taming Toxic People by David Gillespie. The science of identifying and dealing with psychopaths. Sometimes in my job, I think most of us have this thing. Sometimes in your job you have to deal with people who are really difficult. Be interesting to know if they're psychopaths. Be interesting to know if there's some good techniques for dealing with really difficult people. So I put that on my hold list. I also have Girls Made of Snow and Glass by Melissa Bashadost. I probably said that wrong. I know that Laura from A Book Circus was recently talking about this. I believe it's some kind of Snow White / Cinderella retelling, except maybe it's in a modern day setting, and as well Snow White and her evil stepmother have more of a relationship. I don't know. Laura was raving about it, so I decided to put it on my hold list. And I think I saw somebody else talking about how it was a really good audiobook. I watched too much booktube, so I can't remember who said what. Anyway, that's all the audiobooks. I also have The Black Prism by Brent Winks on my list, but it says it might take over 6 months to turn up, so I don't think we'll be listening to that anytime soon. So this will be my February TBR. It's kind of a nice little stack. Every single book is pretty short, so hopefully this will be very manageable for March. There's also quite a few in here that I'm really excited about, which will help as well. So I think, all in all, I'm pretty happy with that as my March TBR. Do let me know if you've read any of these books, whether you think I'm going to like them or not, or come back at the end of March and we can talk about what I thought about them. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a really great day, and I will see you next time.